Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Light of Messiah Yeshua Ministries, and this is a ministry of Light of Messiah Ministries Canada. Today is the second day of Tammuz of the year 5776 of the Hebrew calendar, or it is Friday evening of July 8th. Our topic for today is the Parsha Korach, which is Numbers chapter 16, verse 1 to chapter 18, verse 32. And that is the reading of the Parsha. The theme for this is Numbers 16, 1 to 2. And let us read. Now Korah, the son of Ishar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. Now, the executive summary of this Parsha starts with Korah and his followers, Dathan and Abiram, led a rebellion against the leadership of Moses and Aaron. And the Lord punishes the rebels by burying them and their families alive. And once again, Elohim brings a plague on the people. The second is, which is in chapter 17, the head of each tribe deposits his staff inside the tent of meeting, and Aaron's staff brings forth sprouts that produces blossoms and bears almonds. That is in Numbers 17, 16 to 26. And the last one is that the Kohanim, or the priests, and the Levites are established and assigned the responsibility of managing the offerings of the sanctuary. All of the firstborn offerings shall go to the Kohanim, and all the tithes and the offerings are designated for the Levites in return for the services they perform. And that is in Numbers chapter 18, verse 1 to 32. Now, let us go back to chapter 16, where Korah and his companions, Dathan and Abiram, led the 250 princes from the people of Israel, men of renown, and they questioned Moses and Aaron about their leadership. If we read the verse 16, chapter 16, verse 3, they said that they assembled together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You have gone far enough, for all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is in their midst. So why do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" So we can see here that Korah, Dathan, Abiram was actually questioning Moses being the leader of Israel. And they feel that the whole congregation, the whole Israel is holy to the Lord. So why would them, or these people, or all of them, will listen to him? They appear to be just co-equal. That, or at least that's what they're thinking. Now, as we understand it, the people has been divided into the tribes, and the tribe of Levi were chosen to take care of the tabernacle, and the sons of Aaron and Aaron himself will be the priests. So it looks like Korah is not satisfied with his position because Moses said to him in verse 9, "Is it not enough for you that God of Israel has separated you from the rest of the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself to do the service of the tabernacle of the Lord and to stand before the congregation to minister to them. And he has brought you near, Korah, and all your brothers, sons of Levi, with you. And are you also seeking the priesthood? So obviously, Moses and Aaron understood here that Korah was not very happy to be just in the background. Him being one of the leaders, and he thinks that he can do better and he knows better. And he was able to, he feels that the Spirit of God is with him too, and he's one of those so called chosen ones. So, by questioning Moses and Aaron, he is actually leading a rebellion. And this is very interesting because there are a lot of people in the congregations, be it in the real congregation of the Lord or not, people are rising up against the leaders and question because they are unhappy, or there are things that they want to happen that doesn't happen, so they think that they can do better, and they kind of forget that it is the Lord who chooses the leaders and not the people will choose themselves to be leaders. If we can recall in the story that even Moses was very hesitant to lead the people, and it cost him his life almost when the angel of the Lord about to kill him because of his refusal to lead the people. But because of his wife appealed before the angel of the Lord, reminding him about the covenant by removing the foreskin of their firstborn son. But what I'm saying is that Moses did not put himself into the position. It was the Lord himself who did it. And yet Korah and Dathan and Abiram wants to take over the position, or they want to basically put themselves into power because they think they are chosen. That's the thing. And it's very interesting because they would secretly go into people, talk to them, gain support, and then they attack the leadership. And this is the same pattern that people are doing time and time again. And we know that there are spirits out there who is doing this behind them. But the problem is the people who allow themselves to be used by these unseen forces are the ones who's suffering or who's going to suffer. As a matter of fact, we know as we read the Parsha that the Lord asked Moses and everybody to leave alone the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and not even touch them, because they will be punished. And Moses said that if these people die a natural death, then they are not sent by God. But if they die in a way that never happened before, then people will know that they are from the Lord. So Korah and his followers were killed by the earth swallowed them in a very extraordinary way. And not only that, in verse 35 of number 16, a fire also came forth from the Lord and consumed 250 men who were offering the incense, who followed Korah and Dathan and Abiram. So it's not only Korah and his two companions and their families were eaten alive, but also the 250 princes or Nasi. Actually, in Hebrew, it's called Nasi, or the exalted ones. Those who are known among their community as the leaders, who appear to be righteous, who are supposedly God-fearing. who supposedly servants of the Most High, were killed because they followed the wrong group. Now, not only that, what is very interesting is that though the people saw what happened to Korah and his associates, and the people also saw how the fire from heaven devoured this 250 princes, and yet people still approached Moses and say, "You're the one who caused all these people to die." They even blamed Moses and Aaron, and the Lord once again got upset with them and sent a plague. And Moses and Aaron has to do something about it to make an atonement for them, and that is in verse 46. And he has to put themselves in between the dead and the living so that the plague will be checked. They go in between. Though these people were the ones questioning Moses about their authority, and they falsely accuse Moses and Aaron of causing this death. Yet these humble men of God were the ones who pleaded before the Lord to stop the plague. And in verse 49, those who died were about 14,700, besides those who died on account of Korah. And yet, people never learn. Now, this verse 17, because people are still murmuring about who should be the leaders of the people. All the leaders were given a chance to be presented before the Lord through their rod. And the Lord, in verse 1 of chapter 17, spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and get from them a rod for each father's household, 12 rods from all their leaders, according to their father's household, and you shall write each name of his rod. And Aaron's name," in verse 3, "on the rod of Levi, for there is one rod for one head of each of their father's household. And in verse 4, you shall then deposit them in the tent of meeting in front of the testimony where I meet with you." And in verse 5, "And it will come about that the rod of the man whom I choose will sprout. Thus I will lessen from among myself the grumblings of the sons of Israel who are grumbling against you." So we can see here that even after the death of Korah and his two associates and their families, and extraordinary death by being swallowed in the earth, and an extraordinary death of those 250 Nasi or princes who sided with Korah, were killed by the fire from heaven, and the 14,700 people who died because of the plague. And yet people are still murmuring, and they still want the position. They still want this leadership of who should be the priest for the Most High. And the Lord gathered all the rods of the leaders of each tribe, and he said that whomever he will choose, it will sprout. And everybody complied, and they deposited the rods before the Lord in the tent of the testimony in verse 7. And it came about in verse 8 that Moses went on the tent of meeting the next day, and the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted and put forth buds and produced blossoms, and it bore ripe almonds. So what it is that the rod of Aaron was chosen by the Lord, and it budded. And what is very interesting is the Hebrew word for the rod here is also a branch. And we know that there is a prophecy in Isaiah, referring to the Messiah, that a branch out of Jesse will come up, will come out of Jesse, a shoot, a tender shoot, a rod. So though they are different passages, but it shows that Yeshua will come out of Jesse, will be chosen as well to be the rod, just like Levi's rod was chosen for to serve the Lord in the priesthood. So the rod represents the family, and this rod is actually shows where you belong. So those who belong to Yeshua will be on his rod, and those who belong to whoever is the leader of each tribe will belong to that rod. They have their own rod. But we who are believers in Messiah Yeshua belongs to Yeshua's rod. That's why in Psalms 23, David said, "Thy rod, thy staff, they comfort me." So because we know that we belong to someone, and that someone is Yeshua the Messiah. Now, as for the verse 18, chapter 18, it indicated the duties of the Levites, and those that have the duties were given, but at the same time, they were also given the privilege of receiving the tithes and the offerings that will be given to the Lord. Now, we have to be very careful because a lot of pastors nowadays are claiming that they are Levites. That's why they are receiving the tithes and offerings that are given by the worshipers. But the problem is, these pastors are not from the tribe of Levi, and they're not supposed to be getting those offerings. And as a matter of fact, if you study carefully the Hebrew the temple system, it doesn't really show that the Levites has this salary. What is being offered most of the time are food. So when a Levite would serve in the tabernacle or in the temple system, they eat the food. Now the shekels and the gold and other things are being kept in the tabernacle for its use, for its beautification, it's for its service, not for the Levites to use and spend. So meaning they will not take all the money and then they will become rich themselves. That's the problem, because in the system of Christianity nowadays, people would get the money from the people, or the pastors would get the money from the people and use it for themselves, claiming that they are Levites and they are deserving of because they are laborers, they deserve this the wages. But it's not like that before. As a matter of fact, in the priesthood, the priests and the Levites are divided into 24 divisions, and they have a duty of 1 week straight, and then they go home and they tend their own family matters, and then they would come back again on the next cycle. And so they have 2 full cycles in 1 year plus the appointed time. So they're only technically working once a month, 1 month in a year. So 1 week in the first half, another week in another half, and the appointed times, the 7 moedims, the 7 feasts, And if you count that, that's about a month, roughly 1 month of work. So, and there is one provision here that is being uh, reminded, that the Torah is reminding the Levites in Numbers chapter 18, verse 32. And you shall bear no sin by reason of it when you have offered the best of it. And the most important part is this: but you shall not profane the sacred gifts of the sons of Israel, lest you die. So the Levites and the priests are being reminded not to profane the sacred gifts of the sons of Israel, lest they die. What does it mean? What it means is you have to use it the right way. If you're taking the people's money and to buy your car, to pay your bills, and do whatever you want to do with it, are you really uh, taking care of it the way it should be done? If you are taking advantage of the people's money and using it for yourselves, you're taking advantage of the disadvantaged and use it for your advantage. What good will it be for you? Anyway, that's the end of the Parsha, and I hope and pray that you have learned something today. And until next time, Shabbat Shalom.